Om Sadashiva-Samarambham Shankaraachaarya-Madhyamam Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. त्रैलोक्यनाथ हरिमीड्यमुदार सत्वं शक्तेस्तनूजतनयं परमेष्ठिकल्पं जीमूतमुक्तविमलाम्बरचारुवर्णं वासिष्ठमुग्रतपसं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम्। उपरागमपेक्ष्य मतिर्विषये विषयावधृतिं कुरुते तु यतः ततएव मतेर्विदिता विदिता विषयास्तु ततः परिणामवती. This was the verse we saw last. Here, Totakaacharya is trying to show that the Atma is the invariable and unchanging reality in every cognition. Now, cognition itself involves activity. Activity means there is a change. And so, with each and every cognition, some change is happening. In fact, we even have a saying that change is the only constant and all that, correct? So, people talk about that. And in fact, people take themselves also as changing, correct? Everybody thinks that I am changing, everybody changes. So then, I am also one of the objects in this creation who is undergoing change. This is the normal understanding about oneself for all the people or most of the people, correct? So I am also one of the objects in this creation, in this universe, in this space-time. I am subjected to space-time itself. That means I am changing. Now, this is the thinking which Totakaacharya is addressing now. He wants to change this thinking which you are having because it's erroneous. Whatever you think about yourself in this manner, that I am an object, I am subjected to change, I am in space-time, all these things are erroneous cognition, erroneous notions about oneself. So this is what he is addressing here, because he's already talked about Atma as avikritaha, avikritena. This word he keeps using. Okay, avikritasya. In fact, if you see everywhere with reference to the Chaitanyam, the consciousness, Totakaacharya is using the word avikritaha a lot. Okay. So this avikritaha word literally means, it means that unchanging reality, that which is unchanging, that never changes in whichever way normally we understand change. Okay. So that's what he is trying to explain here. So when he says Atma is avikrita, naturally there can be a there can be a doubt for anybody, correct? Because he is saying self is unchanging reality. But we all say that everybody changes. I am also changing. I know that somebody can come and argue with you, correct? So how do we address this very valid question? That's why he is trying to show. See, first he showed that there is only one Atma. For that he gave the analogy of the sun and the space and all that. Okay, how one sun can light up everything and also appear as many because of many reflections, or even how one space itself again can appear as many spaces depending on the conditioning factor. So all these differences in the one are due to conditioning factor or upadhi. This part was the one we saw in a lot of detail last week. Now the continuation of that is Okay, Atma is one, but still it can be a changing Atma, correct? How can you say that Atma is avikrita? No, that is the point he is going to talk about in more detail. In 9 also, he started with that only, by first showing that the mind is the one which undergoes change. In any cognition, the mind or the intellect or whatever, see, mind itself is one word we can use. Or we can look at it as 4 different things also. Traditionally, how we look at it is mano, buddhi, ahankara and chitta. Like this also we see that, depending upon the function, but it is the same internal organ, one antahkarana we say in Sanskritam, correct? Antahkarana means internal organ. There is one internal organ which is supporting all the other sense organs, correct? Because without this internal organ backing up the senses, cognition doesn't take place. That is a normal experience for everybody, correct? Even if your eyes are open, many times we miss whatever is happening right in front of our eyes. How? Means because the mind was somewhere else, we say, correct? The internal organ was not backing up the sense organ. So only when the internal organ is backing up the sense organ, cognition takes place, and the change which is happening in the internal organ only. It is not in you. That is the differentiation what Totakaacharya is trying to give here. He is trying to separate you from the activities of the internal organ or your mind. And for that, what he showed already, uparagam means basically the sannikarsha or the contact. Or in fact, technically speaking, uparagam is defined as the one thing as though taking the form of another. Okay. So, like even we give the japa, kusuma and spatika example is very clear, correct? So when the red flower is there near the spatikam, the crystal appears red. How? Means it is as though taking the form of red, correct? It has taken the form of the flower, really. Whatever, some quality, dharma. So like that, the mind also takes the form of the object, and then only knowledge takes place. That is our epistemology, correct? That is our theory of knowledge. Traditionally, what we say is the mind goes through the sense organs, because mind is subtle. That's why mind is subtle. Mind can take the form of any object. And by taking the form of that object only, cognition takes place. When the mind takes the form of a particular object, in fact, another analogy is given for that. It is like water is flowing into a field, let us say. Then the field takes the form of, the water takes the form of the field only, correct? If the field is square, then the water body is square. If the field is circular, the water body will be circular. Something like this, they give an example also. Okay, so the mind can take the form. In fact, the mind taking the form of the object is called vritti. Understand that. In Sanskrita, we talk about buddhi vritti, mano vritti. These words we use. Now, what do we mean by vritti? Vritti literally means some kind of a state of an object or a modification of an object. So mind undergoes modification and as though takes the form. In fact, not the entire mind. One part of the mind undergoes this modification, that is called the vritti. Because the other part of the mind is considered as the knower. That is the beauty here. We'll talk about that also later. We'll see that. So here, what is being taught to you is the mind is the one which undergoes modification. The mental modification is called vritti, and because of that only the vishaya avadriti. Vishaya avadriti means the cognition of the object. Once the mind takes the form of an object, see, if this mouse is there in front of me and I'm looking at it, means my mind has taken the form of the mouse, and then the mouse cognition is taking place. This is what is being said here. In this, when the cognition happens, what is changing is the mind. And unless the mind is able to take the form of the object, cognition does not take place. So if the mouse is there behind my laptop, then my mind has no access to the mouse, correct? when the mind does not have access to a particular object, then it cannot take the form of that object. Then you cannot have perceptual knowledge. Perceptual knowledge, sense perception, takes place only when the mind can go out through the sense organ and take the form of that object, whatever may be that object. Okay. Of course, we are talking with reference to the eyes. The same thing also applies to other sense organs. Understand that. So, mind, whether it is able to take the form of an object or not, based on that something is known perceptually or not. That's what he says here, vidita, avidita. So whether it is dependent on the mind taking that vritti. Therefore, mind is the one which is changing. That's what he has said already. Tatah parinamavati. Therefore, mind is the one which is changing, not this self or the atma, which is actually for it, the mind also is an object, in fact, because that is the one which is lighting up the mind. Whatever is happening in the mind also is lighted up by this consciousness, which is you, which is the self. So the self does not undergo any change, you can say. In fact, continuing, 10th also is a continuation of that only. In fact, next 3-4 verses are a continuation of the same topic, this topic only, where we show that all the changes are happening in the mind. Atma is the unchanging witness, unchanging presence, in fact, we have to say. In fact, in the presence of the consciousness, everything takes place. All the activities, including cognition, takes place. And so it is only an unchanging presence. Now that is what is going to be shown. So next, the 10th is what? Matavrittaya atma chita viditaha satatam hi yato vikritascha tataha yadi chatma chitih parinamavati matayo vidita vidita syurimaha. So now, how can you say this Atma is unchanging but mind is changing? If you say that for the mind is changing and because of that only cognition is taking place of the objects, then Atma also should change. If you say Atma is the one which is knowing, if you consider Atma as the cognizer, then it also has to change, like the mind which is changing, you are saying, when cognizing objects. Means that is where now Totakaacharya is trying to differentiate the two. What he is saying is, whatever is happening in the mind, that is always lighted up by the consciousness. There is no activity or there is nothing required. See, in the case of mind, it has to go and take the form of the object, correct? Then only the cognition takes place. Otherwise, it is not known. That he pointed out already. Vidita, avidita. The Vishaya is either Vidita or Avidita. It is either known or not known based on whether the mind is able to take the form of that object. But whatever is happening in the mind, everything is always lighted up by the consciousness. In fact, if the mind folds, also the consciousness is still awake. That's why it is called alupta drik. Drishtahe drashtaram, it is called. And for that, there is no viparilopa. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, it never stops. It is the unceasing seer. Okay, it never ceases. The seeing of the seer, or the seer of the sight, we have to say. But because it is the drishtahe drashtaraha. It is the seer of the sight. And for that, viparilopo na vidyate avinashitvat, like that, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, it never stops. Because it is its very swarupa, right? Its very nature. How can it change? Or it never stops, it never changes. It can never change. Because it's the very nature of the conscious, it's of the very nature of consciousness. And it is always like that only. And in its presence, whatever is there, it will light up. If nothing is there, also it is there as it is. So that's why we say, I slept well, I did not know anything also is a knowledge. I did not know anything, I slept well, I slept soundly, etc. Even when the mind folds, the sleep is really only for mind, understand that. Also, there is a mistake, because I say I am awake, I am dreaming, I slept means I is always awake, in fact. That's why it is aluptadrik, unceasing seer. My Guruji used to do like this. He used to say, like, only for eyes we have all this eyelashes and eyelids, correct? Now the Atma is like this, he will say. You cannot do anything. It's always open. It's always there. So he says, mati vrittayaha atmachita satatam vidita. Means always it is known. Whatever is happening in the mind. Okay, because it is like that. Yataha mata vrittayaha atmachita viditaha satatam. Tataha avikritascha. Therefore it is unchanging. Because there is no change involved. For the Atma to light up the mind, Atma need not undergo any change. Understand that. So sun is the same in a relative way, like that. There's a song is there, correct? Sun also is like that. It lights up in a relative way. If you see, sun is the same. Sun doesn't undergo any change. We are undergoing every day, every night. Human beings are changing, becoming old and all that, correct? But you are older, in fact. That's what. Sun is the same in a relative way, but you are older. Like that, Atma is lighting up everything, and it never undergoes any change. Okay, and that's why it is always lighting up. It doesn't require any activity to light up the mind. So whatever happens, all the vrittis in the mind, mati vrittayaha, all the changes, all the modifications of the mind are always known by the Atma, because it is in fact unchanging reality, unchanging presence. In fact, if that also starts changing, what will happen? So that's what he is pointing out now. Totakaacharya is saying, Yedicha Atmachitihi Parinamavati Matayaha Vidita Aviditaha Syuhu Imaha, he says. So what he is saying is, even if Atma is undergoing changes, or it has to undergo change to know what is happening in the mind, then the Mati Vritti is also may be known, may not be known, depending on the changes which has to take place in the Atma, correct? But then there will be a problem of infinite regress also. Then who knows the change in the Atma? Like that, there is a problem. So then some people are saying, no, there is only one Atma. One part of the Atma is changing. Another part does not change. This is another argument. Understand that. This kind of a Vedanta argument also is there. One part of Atma is changing. Another part of the Atma is the unchanging Atma. So what do you do with all that? It's quite crazy, correct? So what I say is, that is also not, in fact, Bhashyakara argues against all these things in his different commentaries and rejects all these notions. So here, basically what is pointed out is, this Atma Chaitanya does not undergo any change. That is why everything which is happening in the mind is always known to the Atma, or known, or it is lighted up by the Atma, we have to say. Okay. And even if that is changing, means then whatever is happening in the mind also may be known, may not be known, it will become like that, but that's not the case. That's what he is pointing out. Continuing. So, charitam tu dhiyas sakalam satatam viditam bhavata parishuddhachita matibheda guno nahi testi tato yata eva mato sadrishastu dhiya. So continuing the same thing, he is pointing out, see, charitam tu diyaha sakalam satatam viditam bhavata parishuddha chita. So the parishuddha chit is there. This parishuddha is there here. Whether that is the right reading, it should be parishuddha chita only, I think. This is confusing. This is mistake. I think the spelling mistake here. It's only parishuddha chit, not parishuddha chita. So the pure consciousness, by that everything is known. Okay, whatever is happening in the mind, charitam tu diyaha charitam. Charitam means normally we consider it as history. History here means basically why he is using this charitam also. I was thinking about it. That is because you know the whatever happened, whatever is happening, both are known. Correct. This has to be pointed out because some people will say, for us, if you say, see, we will say that if you say that Atma is also changing, it is a problem and all, we are talking about it like that, correct? Then, but the Buddhists are there. They say that Atma, there is nothing called Atma, and whatever Chaitanyam they call, which is flickering consciousness, they say, correct? Kshanika Vijnanavada, they call it in Sanskritam. Kshanikam means instantaneous or flickering. Okay, it is something which is transient. And that Kshanika Vijnana means what? Consciousness itself is flickering. It comes, it goes, it comes, it goes, it comes, it goes, like that. And but then if you ask them how do you know then whatever happened before, that is a problem, correct? If they say that entire world along with the consciousness is born, it dies. Again, the entire world along with consciousness is born, it dies. This is the Kshanika Vijnanavada. Okay, because there is no underlying constant reality for them. Some of them give an explanation that while one Kshanika Vijnana is born, the other Kshanika Vijnana is dying, correct? So the dying Kshanika Vijnana is known to the born, or that which is getting born, correct? Something like this and all, they give explanation, which is not, then it is not really Kshanika, correct? It is anyway. So the idea here is, some people may say even consciousness, it is our Siddhanta that consciousness is changing. So he wants to show that consciousness is different from mental activity, and consciousness has to be their unchanging reality. Both points he is trying to show. First, he is again still showing only that how the consciousness, which is I, is different from whatever is happening in the mind. So, and whatever is the qualities of the mind, they are all only qualities of mind, in fact. It is not your guna or your qualities or your dharma. So that is a very important thing. In fact, the entire Vedanta is that only. Vedanta sadhana is to see this reality, not only see this reality, but hold on to it. Holding on to that reality is the difficult part, because like even Upanishad says, Paranchikhani Vyatrinat Swayambhu. Kathopanishad says that the Swayambhu, Ishvara has created us in such a manner that we are always outward focused, correct? Outgoing. Paranchikhani, he says. These sense organs and mind and everything, our awareness is always going out. It's focusing externally. And because of that, the Swayambhu has as though killed you, in fact, because your true nature is gone. Because of that, you take yourself as a changing subject. And all the problems come due to that. And then the Upanishad itself says, Kashchit dhiraha pratyegatmanam aikshat avritta chakshur amritatvam icchan and all that. But only few people, those who desire amritatvam, immortality, those who desire to know the limitless consciousness, they turn towards oneself, in fact. Turn means not literally that you have to sit like this, etc. The idea is that instead of focusing on the objects in every cognition, turn the focus onto yourself, which is the unchanging consciousness. Okay, that's what is required. In fact, it is easy, really speaking, but maybe it is also very difficult because it's subtle. So, this again is pointing out this entire charita of the dhi, mind or intellect, everything is always known by the pure consciousness, and therefore whatever all the things which you know, it is all not the qualities of the knower. Is that clear? That is the important thing we have to understand. This is a very important thing to understand, because all activities of the mind are always known by this pure consciousness, aham, whatever really the self, the atma. And therefore what? Tataha matibeda gunaha nahi te asti. For you there is no, all the qualities of the mind are not really your qualities, your guna. In fact, this is the Vedantic logic. My Guruji always used to say this. Means all emotions, all thoughts, everything is in the mind. And the knower of the mind is not the mind, correct? Whatever I know is not I. That is the Vedantic sadhana. That is the Vedanta. That is what Vedanta is teaching, and that is what you have to also see all the time. It's a very simple analysis, correct? Whatever I know is not I. And for normal things, this is fine, but you have to extend it to everything. Even all the states of the mind are known to you. So you are not those states of mind. And those states of mind include sorrow, sadness, depression, whatever. So many things are there, correct? Boredom. It may include also joy, all those things. So everything is only chitta vritti, and it is all the changes in the mind only, right? Mati bheda, and the qualities of that, it is not there in you. Nahite asti. Tataha. Therefore, what? Yataha eva mataha. Therefore, since it is like this, correct, that all the changes are happening only in the mind, the parishuddha chit is free from all the changes. It is the unchanging reality to which everything which is happening, all the changes which are happening in the mind are lighted up by this parishuddha chit. Viditam also here, you should not take this as knowing in the sense like how mind knows. We have to differentiate that. That's why this viditam should be more like it is lighting it up. It becomes evident to the consciousness. Everything, all the mental activities become evident to consciousness. It does not need to do anything for that to become evident. That is the point here. Without the consciousness doing anything, everything becomes evident to it. And it itself is self-evident also. That is another very important point. We'll see that. This consciousness, therefore, is what? Asadrishaha to diya. It is different. It is not the same. Sadrishaha means something similar, same. But in this case, mind is something totally different. Atma is different. This is the thing. This Atma, Anatma, Viveka with reference to oneself and mind, one has to do. That is the crux of Vedanta. That's why Totakaacharya, I think he starts from there. He starts everything from there very beautifully. So therefore, this Atma is Asadrishaha. It is not Sadrishaha. With reference, if you look at it from the standpoint of the mind, mind is different, Atma is different. This one has to understand. In fact, here itself there is confusion. Understand that. Finally, only Shruti has to come and clarify this. Because at this point, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad Bhashya introduction, the Bhashyakara is arguing that Veda can reveal facts also, because the Purva Mimamsakas argue that Veda should only reveal activities, karma, correct? It cannot, factual knowledge and all you can know through your sense organs and inference and all that, they argue like that. Veda has to only Amna Yasya Kriyarthatvat, they argue like that. Amnaya means Veda. Veda is for the purpose of revealing Kriya or activities or whatever, Vaidika karma. Now Bhashyakara says, no. First, unless you establish that there is an Atma other than the body, all your Kriya is useless, because you are talking about Kriya which is supposed to produce Punya, and that Punya is supposed to take you somewhere, correct? After the death, you are supposed to go to Swarga or some Loka. Because all Purva Mimamsakas are talking about only Loka Prapti. Or my Guruji used to say, tourism promotion. All that is only tourism. All theologies are tourism promotion. Understand that? Because they are trying to show you some picture of some Swarga. And always remember, advertisements are not reality. They only show the nice parts and nice photographs. Nowadays, Photoshop also they can touch it up, correct? They can even remove. You can take a photo. If you don't like something in that, you can remove it digitally. And so don't believe tourism promotion. You have to consider it as promotion and take it with a pinch of salt. Like that, different theologies are showing you different kinds of Swarga. And then giving you some means to go there. Whatever it is, you have to believe me. You should not believe another guy. All this, they have fighting also in between themselves. I am the latest and the last, one guy says. Okay. So he has basically he has negated everybody before, and nobody else also can come after. And that is all promotion. They are promoting this. And you go there. What is the guarantee you will like it even after you go there? We don't know. Okay, so you cannot ask all these questions. Anyway, the Purva Mimamsaka Bhashyakara says, first you have to establish that you survive the death of the body. Then you have to take another body. Because after when you go to Swarga, you are supposed to enjoy the Swarga in the Deva Sharira, correct? Not in Manusha Sharira, not in the human body. So he says, first Veda has to establish the fact that there is a Deha Vyatirikta Atma. There is an Atma which is separate from the Deha. And also that Atma can take another body. If that fact also is not there, means you cannot go and take the Deva Sharira. Understand that. You will be in limbo. So Deha Vyatirikta Atma, Veda has to establish. Now in this point he says, no, Deha Vyatirikta Atma and all, even we can understand like that, the Purva Mimamsaka says. Then Bhashyakara points out, no, there is so much confusion about this Atma. Starting from Charvaka onwards, different guys are saying different things, correct? Modern scientists say only the physical body is self. That's all for them. There is nothing there. There are materialist scientists are there, who are the majority even now, I think. They don't even accept a mind. Forget an Atma beyond that. So there are people like that, Charvakas are there. And then there are different other people are there who say Indriya is Atma, Manas is Atma, like that, correct? Then Buddhists are also there. They say there is no Atma. Conscious, and there is a Kshanika Vijnana is there. So there are so many theories about this Atma. So there is no conclusion. So only the Veda has to finally establish that there is a Deha Vyatirikta Atma. Then Dehantara Sambandhi Atma also Veda only has to say. Veda has to say there is Swarga again. If Swarga itself is not factually established by the Veda, how will you even go there? What Kriya you will do to go where? So all these facts, Siddha Vastu Vishaya it is called in Sanskritam. Okay, technically it is called Siddha Vastu Vishaya, means what? That which is already there. Veda can reveal whatever is already there also. It need not always reveal only what is to be done or whatever is to be accomplished. It can reveal facts which are already accomplished, already Siddha. Anyway, so here also what we have to understand is, although all this logic and all we are giving, these are all only supporting logic. Understand that finally the Veda is the pramana for us. The Veda is saying Chaitanyam is the invariable in every cognition, and it is the limitless consciousness to which everything becomes evident. And it is different from the body, mind, sense complex. It is nothing like, there is nothing like Atma, in fact. There is nothing like that. It is asadrishaha, diya asadrishaha, with reference to the mind, in fact, is different. It is not the same. It is dissimilar. Okay, continuing. Viditatvam avipratipannataya matishu pragatam vishayeshu yatha yatayeva matah parasamvidita viditatvatah viditatvatayeva yatha vishayaha. Okay, so viditatvam avipratipannataya matishu pragatam vishayeshu yatha. So when this mind is there, okay, and it is going towards the vishaya, okay, and then vipratipanna means erroneous, you can say. Okay, vipratipatti means contradiction, error, etc., wrong cognition. Avipratipannataya means to know something which is not erroneous, correct? The mind is the one which is knowing things, and that knowledge has to be without any vipratipatti, without any error. Now, that means this mind is the knower, the vishaya is the known. Normally, that is what is happening, correct? Because the mind goes to the vishaya. Pragatam vishayeshu, okay, like this, here Totakaacharya is saying. So, here what doubt our Totakaacharya is trying to address is, with reference to mind and the object, you say mind is the grahaka, or the subject, you can say, and vishaya is the object. Now the subject undergoes change, mind, because it goes and takes the form of the object, we say. So there is the vishaya is the grahya, buddhi or mind is the grahaka. So grahya grahaka sambandha is there here. Okay. Now, but then we say there is Atma, which is grahaka. Okay, if you say similarly, and the mind itself becomes the grahya, the buddhi. Whatever is happening in the buddhi is now the vishaya, and so you can say that is the object. Atma is the subject. Okay. So there is a buddhi vilakshana Atma that only many people are not accepting. Even scientists don't accept, I told you. So the buddhi vilakshana Atma is what Totakaacharya is trying to establish here with a lot of arguments. So if mind has to change to know the Vishaya, then similarly the Atma also has to change to know whatever is there in the mind, like that it will come, correct? Same thing, why we cannot say with reference to the Atma also. That is the question. If mind, you are saying mind is going towards the Vishaya, and to know that without any error, it has to take the form of that object properly, and in that process it undergoes change. Then, because it is like that, yataha evam ataha parasamvidita viditattvataha eva yatha vishayaha. So the parasamvid is there. Parasamvid means here again he is talking about the consciousness only. Okay, the consciousness, the pure consciousness, the ultimate consciousness, whatever you can say. So this is the consciousness to which whatever is happening in the mind is getting known. Okay. So the mind becomes the drishya and the Atma is the drashta, we have to say, the seer. So the Atma then gets the subject with reference to the mind, correct? Mater drishyatvam, it gets then. And therefore, what Totakaacharya is pointing out here is, first he is saying Atma is different from mind. That's all he is pointing out in this verse. Because the Buddhists do not accept an Atma different from the Buddhi or mind. I told you already, the Kshanika Vijnanavadins are there. They do not accept a separate Atma, Deha Vyatirikta Atma. Deha means here mind also we are including. So here, what he is pointing out is, with reference to the Vishaya, Vishaya is the Drishya, mind is the Drashta, if you say. Then whatever is happening in the mind also is getting known, correct? Then mind becomes the Drishya, means who is the Drashta for that? You cannot say mind itself is the Drashta, correct? That's what he is pointing out. So Yatha Vishayaha, see, similar to the Vishayas which are seen, which are cognized by a cognizer. Similarly, whatever is there in the mind also is cognized. It is also like a Vishaya only. And who is the cognizer for that? Means that is Parasamvid only, we have to say. The Atma alone is the cognizer of whatever is happening in the mind. Therefore, there is a Atma which is other than the mind. This is what our Totakaacharya is pointing out. In fact, without the postulating that, the Vedantin, we argue with the Buddhists that this recognition is not possible, correct? You cannot recognize something as previously seen. Recollection, recognition, all these things are not possible at all. For that, they give some weird explanations. Anything which is too complicated, in fact, this Occam's razor and all they say nowadays. In fact, this principle, Bhashyakara talks about it in the Brihadaranyaka Bhashya. He says, if you can explain something with a simple postulate, you have to do that only. You can, if you can touch your nose like this, why should you do this? Correct? You don't have to go around your head and touch the nose. In fact, I don't know whether I can even touch it. I can, I think, hopefully. So if somebody asked you to do pranayama, means you do like this, right? It's easy. In fact, somebody tried to do it like this. That is called Dravida pranayama. In fact, in Sanskritam, there is a term called Dravida pranayama. I don't know why it is called Dravida pranayama, but they say that. So if you can, you do this straight away, correct? Like that, if you can explain something with simplicity, that is the right explanation also. That's how one should go. So what he is pointing out is here, this Parasamvid, by this Parasamvid, whatever is happening in the mind is he's having Viditatva, means it is known, it becomes a known, correct? Mind also becomes a known object, like a Vishaya, like any other external Vishaya, because the external Vishayas become known through the mind. Mind is as though the subject, but whatever is happening in the mind also is getting known. Therefore, mind also is only a known Vishaya. Therefore, Atma is separate from mind. First, he points out here. This has to be established. Like I said, because many people do not accept this. Then modern scientists have a problem with this, because they say that they all talk about some observer. Because you cannot separate the observer from the observation. That much everybody knows, everybody understands that and accepts. But who is this observer? Modern scientists are having a problem. Okay. So some people are proposing, like Vedantins, that there is a consciousness which is independent and which is the one which collapses all the quantum systems and all that. So the quantum physicists are talking about quantum systems, and quantum systems are all only there in the form of an equation, probability equation. And for a particular system to materialize, they call it as a collapse of the equation or the quantum wave. In fact, the terms they use are all very funny, are very similar to Vedanta. So they talk about this quantum wave is a transcendental wave, they say, because it transcends space-time. Understand that? So the quantum system is collapsed in space-time from this transcendental wave by an observer, they say. But then what is the nature of this observer means there are many interpretations are there. But if you say that observer itself is a quantum system, then there is this von Neumann's paradox and all, they talk about this. It is similar to what we are talking here. So then the observer also is a quantum system, means who collapsed the observer? Means it becomes infinite regress will come, correct? Some other observer, if you keep on saying, that is a problem. The scientists are trying to address that, I think. But the idea here is whatever is happening in the mind is also known. Therefore, there is a knower other than the mind, which is the Atma, is what is proposed in this 12th verse. Based on the Drishyatva logic or Viditatva. Here it is called, normally we say Drishyatvam or Viditatvam. Viditatvam means being known. So like even the Vishayas are known to the mind. The mind itself is known to the Atma. Therefore, Atma is separate from mind. This is a very important point. And then further, what? Parasamvidita satatam hiyato na viduswamami vishayastu tataha matayopi tatha parasamvidita na viduswamamur vishayastu yatha. So, now Totakaacharya is pointing something very interesting. So we have established that this mind and Atma are different. Okay, that much is there. So now this again can lead to some doubts again, correct? So this Vishaya which are there, which are known by the consciousness, okay, all the time the consciousness is lighting up all these Vishayas, we say. The Vishayas themselves do not know themselves, correct? They are only known by something else. The part does not say that I know myself. Part doesn't have any self-consciousness or self-awareness. So, part does not know itself. Swamami is the word used here. Na viduhu. So, the part cannot know itself or they cannot know themselves, the objects. They are only always known by a awareness or consciousness. Parasamviditaha satatam means always known by the parasamvid, the consciousness. But na viduhu swamami vishayaha. So they cannot know themselves. Okay. Similarly, tatha matayopi parasamvidita, only it is known. Whatever is there in the mind also, because why he is again addressing this point is, some people say that mind is special, objects like part do not know themselves, fine. But mind is something special, mind can know itself. This is the point. Again, some Buddhists talk about this. So that point also now Totakaacharya is addressing. He is saying that like even any Vishaya object cannot know itself, mind also cannot know itself. It's only a Vishaya. It's also Jada, in fact. That's why we say Jada. Even the Sukshma Sharira is really Jada. Although it appears to be conscious or aware, that appearance of consciousness is like the fire appearing in a red hot iron. That also we say, correct? Because it's not the fire or the heat is not the nature of the iron. But if you heat up the iron, then it is having that nature, correct? It can burn you then. So like that, this mind, matayopi tatha, like even the other Vishayas cannot know themselves, mind also cannot know itself. Okay, mind cannot know itself. Therefore, what? So that's what it is said here. Na viduhu swamamuhu vishayastu tatha. Like even yatha, like even in the case of Vishayaha, the mind also has to be known only by the Parasamvid. It cannot know itself. Na viduhu swamamuhu means the mind also cannot know by itself. Yatha Vishaya means like even the other Vishayas which we talked about in the first line, correct? It has to be known only by the Parasamvid, by the consciousness which is other than the mind. Okay. So basically what we have established here is there is an Atma other than the mind, and the mind cannot know itself like any other object also. So these points are all important points here to establish that there is a Atma which is other than the mind. Okay, continuing. Vishayakriti samsthitireka vidha manasastu sada vyavahara vidhau ahamityapi tad vishayatvapara mativitthiravajvalitatmachita. Okay, so now, but what about this I sense? The knower, I am the knower, I say, correct? I am the cognizer. What is that? Because that thought process also is there. The I thought we say, correct? Or that I as the knower. How do we account for this? So Totakaacharya is now going to that point now. The next is he is going into that how there is that everything, even the I thought is only becoming evident to the Atma. That is the real Atma. So some people put this small I, big I and all that. Whatever. So the I as a thought, but associated with the body, mind, sense complex. So you can say individual I. So we all have a self-consciousness about ourselves as a particular individual embodied in a particular space-time, okay, and embodied in a certain body, particular body. So I am an embodied conscious being. This is the experience, but you have to extract yourself out of that and analyze and understand your reality. So that's why here, like even the Vishayakriti. So one kind of cognition which happens in the mind is that one knows the objects other than oneself, or external objects, you can say, correct? So one kind of thought is in the form of objects, whatever we are. So that is the Vishayakriti samsthitihi ekavidha, it is said. Ekavidha means one type. One type of the knowledge or cognition is to know things which are external. And that is there always during the normal worldly activities, correct? That's what Totakaacharya is saying. Manasastu sada vyavahara vidhau. Vyavahara vidhau means vyavahara dashayam. In the state of doing transactions in the world normally, this is happening there in the mind. All the time we are cognizing external objects. That is one type of cognition. But there is also one more type of cognition. What is that? Ahamityapi tad vishayatu apara. So there is another kind of thought which is I. There is also an I thought. Because I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, I am the knower, correct? Pramatru. So this is where I already told you in the beginning of this class that when we talk about our theory of knowledge, which is called epistemology, we say that the mind, one part of the mind goes and takes the form of the object, that is called pramana vritti. In fact, that is the pramana. In fact, that vritti, that modification of the mind, that portion of the modification of the mind is called pramana vritti. Pramana or vritti avachinna chaitanyam, we say. That is the pramana chaitanya. But then the mind itself then has this thought that I am the knower. So the I thought is also there. Because once cognition takes place, I am the knower also takes place. And that is with reference to oneself, correct? So there is an I thought also is there. That is another kind of thought, another Vishaya. And that I thought also is lighted up by the consciousness only. So Mati Vrittihi, okay, Avajvalita Atmachita. So this I thought also is lighted up by the consciousness. So basically what Totakaacharya is trying to show is, he is not only trying to differentiate the Atma from the mind, but what about the I thought in the mind means? Whether that is the real Atma means no. That I thought also is only part of the mind, and it is also becoming evident to you only who is the pure consciousness. You are the pure consciousness to whom even the I thought is becoming evident, and that I thought also is part of the mind only. It is not really, it is not anything other than that. Okay. So this also he is showing. So there are two types of Mati Vritti, you can say. So Ekavida, one type is the general outside objects, another is with reference, there's a self-referencing thought also, and that also is there in the mind. That is also lighted up by the consciousness only, same consciousness. And then he is continuing that same. So now we have differentiated between Atma and mind, and then where it leads, we will see further. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
धन्यवाद जी।